I'm John Plyler, Jr. In this instance, I'm here appearing as the son of John Laney Plyler, who was Furman's, I believe, 7th president and served from January 1st, 1939 through August 1964. Well, he was my father first, and more than being a father, he's a person that I just gravitated to. From a young age, I just enjoyed going with him wherever he went. I was the oldest of 3 sons, and so I got opportunities to go places with him first. And even on a trip to New York at one time when I was about 12 years old, he took me on the train with me, and he was visiting various foundations and all, always seeking additional funds for Furman. But I had a chance to travel with him on a trip like that. He was a graduate of Harvard Law School, and that was very central in his life, although not as central as Furman. He was totally Furman from birth, in that both his mother and father had been Furman people, and his older brother and he finished Furman the same year in 1913. He had another brother who finished in 1917 and a sister who finished the Greenville Women's College about the same time, about 1917. I'm not sure of that year. After law school, he came back and was a professor in the early years and through actually the life of Furman's law school, which ran from 1921 to 32. Beginning about 27, he became dean of the law school. After the law school was closed as a part of the Depression, he continued to teach business law, and then became president in 1939 after actually being elected a trustee in 38. But he's also a person who always had time for me and for my brothers, was never too rushed. When I was young and started school, he would call out my words for spelling. He would check my math problems after I'd solved them. And then as I grew older in school and reached high school, he, at the end of the day, high school at that time in Greenville High, ended at 3:36 in the afternoon, and I would, after school, usually walk by his office, and if he was free, I would go in and we would visit. And I was always interested in talking about Furman with him, and he spent the rest of his time at Furman and really the rest of his life moving Furman towards what he saw that it could be. He had great vision. But he still had time for his children and his wife, his family. So he was a special person. And people in the community knew him for his integrity, for his abilities, for his manner of doing things, and then for accomplishing them. Greenville was of a size about 36,000, and anywhere I would go in any store or so forth, they knew me, and so they knew who my father was, and that put a real stranglehold on my needing to behave myself most of the time, because I certainly didn't want to embarrass my parents. And he was totally involved in design, selecting the architects, and then doing things with them. Like he sort of laid out the front gate. He had been to Scotland and seen a little stone bridge that if you go around the walk on the lake and go over the little bridge, he sketched that out for the architect. And of course he couldn't draw the buildings, but he knew what he wanted. He said, we plan to make this campus second to none in beauty in the nation. And so people talk about the Furman campus, that was part of his vision. The lake was part of his vision. Of all the buildings that he had worked on, Plyler Hall was the last building. And at the time of his retirement is when that work was finished, as far as setting aside the funds and planning the building. So it was left in that state, and construction was begun on the two wings of Plyler Hall. And it was the board meeting at that time that the Board of Trustees wanted to recognize him. At that time, the library had been named, the dining hall had been named, the student center had been named, even though it hadn't yet been constructed because of a gift, and all of South Housing and Lakeside Housing, all of those buildings had already been named. So the building left was the new Science Hall under construction, and they chose to name that for him. Well, if you had asked him to name the buildings on the campus, he would not have named a building for himself. But I can tell you, because he was still alive when it was named by the board, he was very pleased. He felt most honored and was appreciative. He was aware and very much knowledgeable of the top private liberal arts colleges in the country: Amherst, Williams, Bowdoin, and those type of schools. And he would like to move Furman as far in that direction as he could. And we've looked at some of the buildings downtown, and they were getting old, and they really couldn't do it there. They had combined with a women's campus to have a co-ed college, but they were opposite sides of town. So he made a number of the initial steps, which was to get men and women on the same campus, to set a quality of campus and a vision for a campus that has been pretty much followed. But he was just as interested and as highly motivated to get the very best faculty. And if you've read some of the things, whomever was the dean of the faculty and all would always bring people to talk with him. And he had a unique and I think an excellent ability to size up people and their capabilities very quickly. And he wanted Furman to have the very best professors possible, because campuses, as beautiful as it may be, or whatever the buildings are, what makes a school is a college, is the faculty. He was a person of integrity, and we talk about integrity and honesty, but he was totally honest. He would not vary a penny on anything. He just was a totally honest, so a person of high character, a person who worked hard and pursued an education from his earliest years with due diligence. I mean, a person who worked hard and studied hard and made the most of his opportunities.